Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Sunday, August 31st, 2025. Wild. We're halfway through the Labor Day long weekend. I hope you're having a good one. And Kitchen Table Talk will be happening today. So thank you for reminding me, everybody, that we're barreling into September and I have to set that up. So it has been set up and we will get together today at 1 o'clock. I've sent the email already. I won't send another one, but you've got the link and everything like that. So check that out. If you want to join the Kitchen Table Talks, head over to CanadaPoly.com. I think it's CanadaPoly.com and join on the sidebar. It's just an email list and I send you the link and then you just join us in the chat and you can tell us what you think about all the crazy things that are happening in Canada. And we'll start that today for a new season. So I'm excited about that. It'll be good to see everyone. BRICS news today. Xi and Putin are hanging out and Modi's there as well. So it's a very, very big deal. I'm surprised Trump didn't get invited. I'm sure heads would have exploded if Trump was hanging out at this conference for the Labor Day weekend. There were rumors that Trump was dead. Did anybody hear? I only heard this tangentially. Apparently a whole bunch of left-wing people were saying that he was dead. And then as soon as Trump heard this, he started trolling them. And so it was kind of funny, whatever. Ukraine war news at the end of the show. Basically, everybody's saying that everybody else is preparing for a long war. Ukraine's saying Russia's preparing for a long war. Russia's saying Ukraine's preparing for a long war. I think if Trump walks away, then it'll be over pretty quick. But I digress. Maybe we're in for a long war. More spraying in the Ottawa Valley, and Dan Dix is talking about the glyphosate, Renfrew County. Dan Dix is talking about glyphosate, and he goes more in depth, and it's pretty good. I've just got a minute of it, but check out his work as well. The crime rate in Toronto, we're going to start there, has more than tripled since 2010. That's pretty wild, and taxpayers are on the hook for $99,000 more bureaucrats. 99,000, not dollars, 99,000 more bureaucrats. 100,000 more bureaucrats since 2016, and book banning and Danielle Smith. And so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We've got to start with the crime. And Herschel says, Canadian streets are starting to sound like a war zone. I wonder why that is. CP24 is reporting over 80 rounds fired in downtown Hamilton, injured 3 people. So that's not great. And yes, the crime rate really has increased dramatically, and it's shocking. Like it's actually shocking. I didn't realize it was this bad. Michael says, here are the numbers of violent crimes reported each year in Toronto from 2010 to 2024. We've got to go back further. I'm interested in 1998. I'm interested in 1990. How many crimes were happening back then? Because I remember going, and it felt very safe when I was a young kid in the early 90s and the late 80s. Anyway, 2010 had 15,000 and change incidents, violent crimes. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but the increase is slow. So by 2018, from 2010 to 2018, it only increased by a little bit, 17,000, right? 15,000 in 2010, 17,000 in 2018. It's a rounding error-ish, kind of, right? And then 2019 happens and you get 32,000. That's almost double. Holy smoke. And then 29,000 and 30,000 and then 37,000 in 23 and then 50,000 in 24. What is 2025 going to look like? This is a bad trend and it seems to be getting worse. It gets worse, it gets worse, it gets normalized, and then it gets way worse. And then it gets normalized and then it gets way worse, right? And wow, how does that just get let go? People just get used to it? I guess kind of. Brian Passafume says Canada's Justice Minister thinks there's no crime problem in Canada, just like when he was Immigration Minister and thought there wasn't anything wrong then either. Sam Cooper's responding to that. He says, I don't recall gangs robbing LCBO in broad daylight 10 years ago, reading human trafficking warnings at 401 highway rest stops, machine guns shooting up bars, drugged out violent home invasions, stolen cars end up in Saudi Arabia, cartel invasion, super labs, RICO Act minister now. So, hey, Sean Fraser, there is something going on. Something bad's going on. You should probably respond to this. Fraser says, this isn't the Wild West, it's Canada. And people are responding to that saying, yeah, there's a whole bunch of people shooting up the place. What the heck's wrong with you, man? Canadians deserve real solutions that make us safer, not slogans that inspire fear and chaos for Pierre's political survival. Ron says 80 shots fired in Hamilton, 3 people hit. But don't worry, according to Canada's Attorney General Sean Fraser, this isn't the Wild West. Everything's just fine. It's not the Wild West? Only the citizens are unarmed. So you're right, it's not the Wild West. We're sitting ducks. The real Mr. Bench says, this is Vancouver. Now imagine if this was a bunch of truckers protesting the government. How fast would the police and media show up? So they've got smoke bombs, they've got flags, they've got amplified noises and amplified speakers and drums, and I'll just give you a taste of what's going on. I'm trying to watch Netflix over here, you know? I need a cool Asian name like Zexy Mark, right? Like, can you imagine? I identify as Zexy Mark. Thank you. Kirk says that's the only way that the justice would take me seriously, right? If my Netflix habits were infringed by these pro-Palestinian protesters. Kirk says, and my name was Zexy Mark. Kirk says, in today's episode of Canada's justice system is a joke. Yesterday, Calgary police shot Elvis V, a dangerous cartel criminal wanted on a Canada-wide warrant, with barely any effort to warn the public that he had removed his electronic tracker. He shot and entered a house in Calgary and shot at police as well. The story gets much more ridiculous, though. He was on bail for previous charges related earlier in the year when he was accused of home invasion where he shot a dog and a homeowner. He was on bail at that time too and was released on bail again in June. Previously, he was arrested in 2020 and in 2022 with charges in regards to extortion, firearm offenses, and 7 charges for breaching court orders. Canadians get charged if they defend themselves from dangerous criminals, but our justice system just keeps releasing them onto our streets and into our homes. So maybe the increase is because at some point the releasing of the criminals stopped putting the bad guys in jail at all, and the increase in population results in more bad guys coming here, and the jails being A, full, and B, not taking the bad guys anymore results in all the bad guys staying out. So we arrest them and they go through a bullshit show trial and they get re-released, and then they commit more crimes, right? Doubling the violent crimes from 2018 to 2019, and then doing it basically again, between 2021 and 2024, the doubling, right? It took a couple of years, but 30,000 to 50,000, not quite 25,000, right? So 2020, I guess you could make an argument. But it's fundamentally, I think it is a reflection of the lax policies. This isn't like, possibly society is breaking down, but these are violent crimes. This isn't stealing things from the grocery store or white collar crimes or anything like that. These are violent crimes, right? So it's one of those things where the policy is reflected in these violent crimes because the people who are committing the violent crimes aren't being held accountable, aren't being reformed. They're not being put in prison. Nothing's being done except them being put back out on the street. And that's very, very concerning, if you ask me. Here's another thing. We're going to talk about the invasion of the West ongoing, and England and the Australia very soon. But I just wanted to show you, this is in the crime area. Toronto Crime Watch says, this man in this clip is firing a prohibited Norinco. I'm getting it terribly wrong. I'm sorry. Type 81 IMG with an illegal magazine. I counted at least 12 rounds fired. So yesterday or the other day, I was talking about these guys, and they had a table of guns set up. And the person who had made the tweet said it didn't look like the guns were illegal or the mags were illegal, but he said he hadn't taken a really close look. And somebody messaged me and said, those guns are illegal and the mags are illegal. What the heck is that? What is that guy talking about? And don't spread fake news. And I was like, okay, fair enough. But I wanted to correct the record because yes, they are. Look at the size of this mag. Like, this is the magazine that holds the bullets. It's only supposed to be limited to 5. So they are right. And yes, these guys are shooting prohibited weapons off a bridge in Bracebridge, it seems like. And it seems like people know where the bridge is. They keep going back to this bridge. They keep putting up videos of this. If the OPP are looking at this, if anybody's worried about this, it doesn't seem like they're worried about this. They keep putting up these videos. I think they've monetized them. So it's one of those things where this is a crime that's ongoing and nobody seems to care. And that's weird, right? Isn't that strange? I am Yes, You Are No says 2003 versus 2024 in Dublin. So crime, safety, and on the left, 2003, Dublin is one of the safest cities in the world. Dublin is considered one of the safest cities in the world. An international survey rated it 18th, well ahead of many other European cities. Now, fast forward to 2024 in January, and Dublin now ranks among the top 10 most dangerous major cities in Europe. Huh. Yikes. That's not so good, right? Things happened. I wonder what happened. Same thing that's happening in Canada. Election Wizard says, Trump, if the Illinois governor fails to get crime under control, MAGA is coming. And so this isn't just happening in Canada, and it's not just happening in the United Kingdom or Ireland or just in certain pockets some places. This is not an isolated incident. This is happening pretty much everywhere. And people are saying that Trump is not able to accurately assess real life. The governor of Illinois was saying, oh man, we've got our crime under control. Don't you bring your mega stuff here, Mr. Trump. We're not interested in that, right? But the reality is, like, Chicago's a war zone and has been a war zone for most of my adult life. Like, Donald Trump says 6 people were killed and 24 people were shot in Chicago last weekend. And that's not even eyebrow raising. That's kind of normal, right? Like, that's what I mean. It's been a war zone forever. I remember reading that kind of headline when I was in my teens and I thought, well, that seems weird. And then by the time I was in my 20s, I was like, oh, Chicago, right? They just shoot people randomly there. And so it's been normalized to the point of people don't even care anymore. And to the point of leadership in Chicago gaslight people over how bad it is. But Trump is saying, like, 6 people were killed and 24 people were shot. That's not good. And so he says, the governor this week, empathetic governor of Illinois, just said he doesn't need help in preventing crime. He's crazy. He better straighten it out fast or we're coming. MAGA, President Donald Trump, DJT. So, yeah, if you just lie about things, if you say, see that thing that you're discerning with your eyes there, that's not real. Stop pretending that's real. Where everybody else can perceive the same thing, you're just gaslighting people. And that lie doesn't hold up under scrutiny. And Trump is providing the scrutiny. And like, he's threatening to fix it. How dare he? So I don't know. We'll see. Again, flipping it on its head. If you get a Democrat president who's going after January 6th people who committed crimes, right? This could go very badly. So we'll see how it all works out. Dame is sharing this. Let's talk about the invasion of the West ongoing. And then we have to talk about the United Kingdom because they're running their Raise the Colors campaign. And it seems to be quite effective. Canada is still asleep at the wheel. Canada is still uncomfortable talking about the fact there's an obvious full-blown invasion being run and the government's running it. And we're the victims of what's happening. We're being replaced. And that's uncomfortable to talk about in Canada. But other people in other countries are recognizing what's going on and they're saying we should stop it. They're facing pushback. In Canada, you can't talk about that in mixed company, right? Like that's like going into a Toronto bar with a Montreal sweater on or something like that, right? Like, people are going to look at you and be mean to you. But yeah, would you rather lose your country, right? And I mean, the Brits are saying we wouldn't rather lose our country. The Australians are saying we wouldn't rather lose our country. We'd rather speak up. So Canadians are politely staying quiet. It's very interesting. Here's this guy. Here we go.
Heritage Canadians, we are being replaced at a rate that will shock you. Here's statistics showing how as recently as the 1980s, Canada was almost entirely white and made up of people from European descent. In less than 2 generations, whites are nearing becoming a minority in their own country. That isn't immigration, that's invasion. And it's no longer deniable, Liberals. You are replacing us. In the last 5 years alone, more Indians have come to Canada than in the previous 100 years combined. Let that sink in. Canada, it's time we end mass immigration and start remigration.
That's interesting. The stat of in the last 2 years or 5 years alone, more people from India have come in than the last 100 years combined. That's a wild stat. How does that even happen without people having a red flag raised, right? When you walk around in Ontario or even rural rural Newfoundland, a lot of the stores, when you go into Subway, when you go into Tim Hortons, are staffed by Indian people. How did they get there? Why are they filling jobs in rural Nova Scotia or Newfoundland? Why do I keep messing up Nova Scotia and Newfoundland? It's weird. Here's this guy talking about how the Canadian government is paying Indian truckers to be Indian truckers. Do Canadian-born people get access to this kind of program or benefit? Here we go.
So I'm going to give you a quick briefing on this so that if you are interested to get an AZ license and
the way he said AZ license is kind of, did you hear that? Okay, he's selling an AZ license.
If the funds are a criteria for you or funds are a hassle for you, then this is the program you should be talking about. I will also tell you that this program is partly funded by the Government of Canada for the Foreign Credential Recognition Program. And this is also known as the Accelerating Career Advancement Program, meant for international trained individuals. So with this, I'm going to give you a little more detail about this program. Let's take the benefit as given by our government and get established into the trucking industry. Thank you.
There you go. So the whole program specifically for people who are new to Canada, who want to get a leg up in the trekking industry and get established in the trekking industry, so on and so forth. Is that kind of stuff accessible to Canadians? I don't know that it is. I don't know that, especially when taxpayer covered for the costs of training to drive truck. Wild. Donald Best, and I think that's what they're offering. Donald Best says, is it racist? So he's responding to the Western Standard reporting Calgary police charge man after stampede Midway stabbing left 3 in hospital. And the only thing we get to know is how old the guy is. Calgary police have charged an 18-year-old man after a stabbing on the stampede Midway last month, sent 3 people to the hospital. And Donald says, is it racist to ask if the mass stabbing suspect at the Calgary stampede is an immigrant? Is it racist to notice how many recent immigrants are committing crimes way out of proportion to their numbers? Ifran Mohammadi, oh, we got the name, is charged. Link on the next post. So good. I'm glad we got the name. That's good to know. Interesting as well. Rod says, if Lucy Connolly was put in prison for her deleted social media post, why isn't this woman being arrested for openly inciting arson in a housing estate? So Basil the Great is sharing this. An African tribe in Britain is casting voodoo spells on houses of white people. She says all the racists of the street will die. So, I mean, everybody's going to die on a long enough timeline. So voodoo strikes again, right? Like, it's one of those things. It's just, I don't think that you should be openly doing voodoo spells in public to condemn specific people, right? If you were wishing harm on a specific group of people and then going up to their house and casting spells on their house, that's probably, you've probably violated something. We should probably stop all of that. Lee Harris here is, let's talk about England and the United Kingdom. And we're not going to be able to get through all of this news on the stream today. So just preparing people, I'm going to have to cut it off before I get through this series of tabs. But trust me, it's bad. If only we knew how bad it really is. Here's this guy. He's a Brit, and he's talking about how weird it is that it's racist if you raise the English flag in England. Isn't that where the British flag belongs? Here we go.
Yo, why am I seeing bare people kicking off about English flags being in England? I fully don't get it. Like, where else in the world should these English flags be if not England? The worst thing is, it's a lot of English people that are complaining about the flags. They're fully seeing their own country flags, and instead of being proud of where they're from and their country, they're actually getting triggered by their own country flag. It makes no sense. Everywhere in the world, people are allowed to be proud of where they're from. I've been to so many different countries, and every country is allowed to have their flag up and be proud of where they're from. England's the only country in the world that if you're proud to be English, you're automatically racist. It's mad. I fully don't get it. Like, if you see a Spanish man walking down the street with a Spanish flag, it's fine. A Russian walking down the street with a Russian flag, fine. An English man walking down the street with an English flag, oh my God, he's a racist. Instantly. And I never understood that still. If you actually think about it, yeah, the English flag's actually the opposite of racism, because the English government are helping people from all over the world, except from English people. That's the whole point. Like, it fully makes no sense to me that there are English veterans sleeping on the streets. English veterans that literally bled blood for this country, went to war for this country, are now homeless and have nowhere to go. But then the English government give 5-star hotels to random people from different countries that they don't even know. That is literally like me going around and giving food to every child in my neighborhood, feeding all the kids in my neighborhood. And then I go back home and then my children are starving. But I don't care about my children. I'd rather feed every other child. That is crazy. So with that being said, I think there should be English flags in England. Obviously. The same way there should be Ghanaian flags in Ghana and Indian flags in India. This is perfectly normal. So when I'm seeing people kicking off about it, it fully makes no sense.
Yeah. I agree for the most part. Here's Keir Starmer. He says, I am clear. This is from yesterday, August 30th. Yesterday morning before 4:37 a.m., but that's like 11:30 or 10:47 a.m. In British time. But he says, I'm clear we will not reward illegal entry. If you cross the channel unlawfully, you will be detained and sent back. That's not true. Scott says, so why are thousands of people sat in hotels across the country who have entered the country illegally? They aren't detained at the hotels either. They're free to roam and go where they want, which with many committing crimes while they're here and still not getting deported. Same happening in Canada. It's super crazy. They're shooting up neighborhoods and we're told nothing about them, or all of a sudden we're getting their names. Here's Hannah's World. She's talking about Epping, and here's Hannah, and she lets us know what's going on.
Epping said no. The council said no. A judge even said no. Government appealed it. 138 migrants stayed in the Bell Hotel anyway because your voice means nothing. And now they'll tell us hotels will be closed in a managed way. Managed? We've had 110,000 arrivals in just 12 months. Channel crossings are up 48% compared to last year. That's not managed, that's chaos with a press release. And the grand plan, stuff them into HMOs in your town, because apparently the answer to mass migration is turning your neighbour's semi into a UN dorm room. Sounds lovely. Not using empty military bases, not building proper camps. Nope, just dump them on.
I don't want to use military bases, and I don't want to build proper camps. I want to send them home. I don't want to make purpose-built housing barracks for migrants. Thanks. It doesn't make any sense. Elon says the nightmare happening to Epping and hundreds of other towns in Britain and Ireland will come to your town too, unless it's stopped by the people. Jim says the decision to overturn Epping's injunction on the Bell Hotel was never in doubt. The locals fought, the council stood firm, but the system is always going to crush it. This was not a legal battle, it was a political one, and the verdict was stitched up from the start. 3 senior judges made sure of that. This was a foregone conclusion, like I think most of our elections are a foregone conclusion. The solution is not going to be found in the judiciary, and it's not going to be found at the election box either, unfortunately. Eric says, holy cow, patriots are fed up with mass migration of Muslims and third world refugees into the United Kingdom. Thousands were seen marching in Skegness, England this week. I'm getting that terribly wrong as well. The momentum must continue. So here is an example, and I know Eppings is protesting still. I've got some video footage from that as well. Here's just a bit. So I think these guys are chanting. I don't think that's an audio overlay like yesterday. Here is Adam Brooks, and he says, I was mad in Manchester. I had so many come to talk to me about Epping. I had support from Black, Asian, and white people. I even had a Muslim guy tell me to keep speaking up because these illegals are giving hardworking legal immigrants like his parents a bad name. The lefty noise on X isn't real life. That is clear. Well, right. A lot of people aren't on X. That's certainly true. Tommy Robinson is asking Grok questions. I have Grok blocked because that's not what I wanted to do. I've him blocked because I don't find the AI reliable. So I don't find AI reliable. But Tommy Robinson's asking Grok to explain the Home Office changing. Well, he says, no, Grok, the Home Office report of 2020 was a fraud on the British people. It conflated type 1 and type 2 child sex offender types. It also redefined what a group was. Please look into an old article I posted years ago about this fraud. The Home Office report was made to dilute the truth about the offender types seen here. But they changed it to here, he's more clear. He says, you need to review the link I provided, showing you how wrong you are and how the Home Office deliberately obfuscated, changed definitions, and conflated type 1 and type 2 child sex offender types. It conflates type 1 offenders who, according to the 2013 CEOP report, tend to operate in large groups, 4 or more, with type 2 group offenders who act in pairs or a couple. Conflating these offenders, the offender types, deliberately skews the statistics sufficiently to defraud the British public. And so a group can just be 2 people, right? And so they changed what a group was in order to change the statistics, in order to soften the impact of this news, right? Tommy Robinson again says the Home Office deliberately redefines what a group is using this definition. Groups are 2 or more people of any age connected through formal or informal associations or networks, including but not exclusive to friendship groups. So a group can now be just 2 people. This is confirmed in paragraph 37 of the Home Office report, which clearly states it adopts this definition from the Office of the Children's Commission to include what is commonly known and reported on in media as grooming gangs. Therefore, type 1 and type 2 offenders have been mixed together, conflated, and thus they skewed the statistics. And that's the point. It's being used to lie to people and soften it. And so there's a whole lot more going on with the invasion in the UK and the crime, but it's happening in